Namaste. Jai Shri Ram, Sat Sri Akal. I am incredibly grateful to the management of Festival of Bharat for putting on this amazing program. Bharat has given so much to the world, and it's so refreshing to see that celebrated with the gratitude, the respect, and the enthusiasm it deserves. I am also incredibly grateful to have been asked to speak about a very remarkable man. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is catapulting Bharat up the global rankings on socio-economic metrics. It is estimated that in the last 5 years, he has achieved as much socio-economic progress as was achieved in the previous 40 years. From 38% of households having a toilet to 99.2% as of today. From 18,452 villages in the hardest to reach areas not having any electricity to now not one single village living in darkness. From only 55% of villages being accessible by an all-weather road to, by the end of this year, all 100%. From 130 million LPG gas connections over 60 years to 100 million over 4 years. From average GDP growth of 6.7% to 7.6% in his first term. Bharat has leapfrogged over 65 countries in the international rankings of ease of doing business. I don't need to go on. He has achieved so much on the socio-economic front. But my focus of my talk today are his achievements along a very different dimension. How he is cultivating the more than 10,000-year-old Bharatiya civilization. How he is helping Bharat to remember, to embrace, and to be energized by its civilizational greatness, and why that's important. I thought it'd be interesting for me to begin my talk to sort of set the scene by actually giving you my story. So I first visited Bharat 4 years ago. I was newly engaged to my husband-to-be, and we were about to visit Bharat, and I was bubbling with excitement at the idea of meeting my new family and the country that in time would become my home. I was completely ignorant about Bharat, about Prime Minister Modi. I hadn't even heard of him. And perhaps that's why, in my talk, I am almost in the sort of privileged position to be able to give a really objective view of the achievements. When I first got to Bharat, I absolutely fell in love with it, with the vivid colors, the music, the dancing, the effervescent life, the strong bonds of family and friendship. I came to learn about Vedic philosophy, about the Hindu epics and practices, and about Bharat's history. And I felt a cacophony of emotions, from effortless peace with Vedanta, to absolute love for the Hindu epics and practices, to anger that the civilization that had given so much to the world and had been so tolerant had faced so much persecution and so much systemic vilification. Our last trip to Bharat was this January, and I added happiness and sadness to my list of emotions. As we heard, I was happy that our family maid and all our various Ola drivers were telling us how their families in the villages now have electricity, now have jobs, now have clean cooking gas. I was also personally really relieved and happy that wherever we went, we never seemed to be far from a public toilet this time. And that made sightseeing much easier for me. But I also felt a lot of sadness. So I'm trying to learn Hindi. And some of our family there got very upset and would rather not talk to me at all even though I'd come all the way to Bharat to visit them, than to talk to me in Hindi. Yet, at a gathering amongst family and friends and neighbours, they would spend the entire evening talking about the English elocution lessons that their children and grandchildren were attending. Children and grandchildren that don't speak any of the languages native to the country in which they're living. I would get upset when they would talk about the epics as mythology, something that didn't happen, but they would weave words and ideas from other religions into their sentences with such ease and pride. I also felt upset because as we were travelling between the states of Bharat on our holiday, there were Christmas decorations all over the airports, jingle bells playing on the airplane, even when it was mid-January and Makar Sankranti was the next day. On a previous journey to Bharat, we had travelled during the Diwali period. There had been no decorations, not even a mention of Diwali in the airports, even at our hotel resort over Diwali. It made me so upset to see Indians, Bharatiyas, so blatantly denigrating themselves. I feel so much gratitude to Bharat for awakening a new dimension, a new awareness within me, so I knew I had to act. So as you heard, I set up English, it was Bahu, then Barbie, now it's Behen, English Behen Ka Dil Se, on social media, aiming to inspire Bharatiyas to embrace their civilizational greatness and to make them realize that they are doing themselves a grave injustice by trying to be more Western than the West. Through researching for my videos on Republic Day, Balakot airstrikes and such, I came to realize the critical importance of the upcoming elections for Bharat. History shows us that large and long-lasting change in Bharat has to happen bottom-up. It can't be imposed top-down. It has to be a movement of the people. It also shows us that there needs to be an inspirational leader to catalyze and to guide this movement. A leader who gives hope to, who awakens latent energies and passions within, and who unites Bharatiyas to protect Bharatiya civilization. Lord Ram, Lord Krishan, Raja Chola, Chhatrapati Shivaji, Guru Gobind Singh, Rampiyar Gujar, Lakshmibai, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. These are excellent examples of leaders who've inspired Bharatiyas to protect Bharatiya civilization for thousands of years. Through researching about Prime Minister Modi, about his upbringing, watching him deliver his speeches, watching him embrace being Bharatiya, I came to realize that he is the leader inspiring Bharat to protect Bharatiya civilization in the 21st century. Before I tell you how I feel he's doing that, I first want to tell you why I think that's important. At the core of Bharatiya civilization is the belief that the purpose of life is to attain moksha, to gain ultimate understanding and awareness. This is achieved by cancelling out one's karmas through dharmic action. That means living in harmony with the entire ecosystem around you, with the people, with the animals, with the fauna, with the materials of the earth and the universe. Now, this seemingly simple objective, simply attaining moksha, is of course very, very difficult to achieve in practice, very, very complex. And that is why such a rich and deep body of literature, arts, sciences, philosophy and laws has been gifted from Bharat to the world to help each of us navigate our journey towards moksha. Trying to describe Bharatiya civilization is like trying to put infinity into a bottle. You can't do it, and I am not doing it by no means any justice. But I do have a strong belief that it has the answers for the world's problems. 10,000 years ago, today, and 10,000 years in the future. It is humanity's best hope for sustainable life. That is why it is critical for India to remember and rediscover Bharat. Before you can actually rediscover Bharat, however, you first have to protect it. And that is why Prime Minister Modi's first civilizational task was to keep the nation safe, raise the priority of national security. Protect, and then you can cultivate. So, how is Prime Minister Modi cultivating Bharatiya civilization? I see him taking a three-pronged approach, and I'm sure he's not doing this consciously. It's not a strategy of his, but it's just how I can sort of see it. So the first of those prongs is simply him, his personal conduct, who he is. He is uncorrupted by Western influences, and he has a sharp understanding of Vedic knowledge. That is why he is so proud in performing yoga asanas and Ganga Aarti in front of foreign dignitaries. That is why when he speaks to teenagers and children about how to deal with their parents, how to cope with their school exams and the challenges of life, he provides them with age-old Bharatiya wisdom, not popular wisdom. He is making it not just okay, but cool to be Hindu, to be Sikh, to be Jain. And he's doing this in a very effective way, which is simply by leading by example. The second prong of his approach is how his personal conduct is reflecting onto his political conduct. How his staunch work ethic, sleeping only 4 hours a night, and pouring every ounce of his energy, of his waking hours into serving the nation, means he is fully prepared to take on the responsibility to lead the nation and fully deserving of that privilege. He is raising the priority of increasing the transparency of government processes, public sector, because he has clarity of heart. You only have to look on the Grameen app to see each toilet being built. It's recorded on the Grameen app immediately. Each household that is electrified, you can see it on the Gav app immediately. He is also, because of clarity of heart, tackling corruption. Corruption that has been plaguing Bharat for far, far too many generations. And he donates all of the gifts, all of the money he receives to girl child charities and to clean up Ma Ganga, 11.5 crore rupees to date. The most well-known Hindu epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, explore in great detail aspects of leadership, society, rights, and duty. They make it very clear that a leader is just a representative of the people. He should have no favoritism for between his citizens, even with his children. He should serve the people, not himself and his family. That is exactly what the first emperor of Bharat, Maharaja Bharat, did. That is why Bharat is called Bharat. We all know the consequences of when that age-old wisdom wasn't adhered to, when Dhritarashtra chose his son over the more virtuous and more capable Yudhishthira to be the next leader. Bharat took a U-turn on its own old age wisdom to establish an almost impenetrable era of dynastic politics. Power being passed down to individuals regardless of their experience, their understanding of the people and of their civilization. Dynastic politics actually goes completely against the fibre of Bharatiya civilization. It's not in the interests of each other. In fact, dynastic politics, it exacerbated the loss of Bharatiya civilization that was initiated under foreign invaders. It also accelerated the adoption of Western values, of materialism, individualism, short-term thinking, things that are more consistent with dynastic politics. All of these ingredients came to a head to create an intense period of corruption. And yet, at the same time, we have in the Vedas that even touching another's wealth is a very serious crime. Prime Minister Modi has exposed and overturned this poison of stews. In the latest elections, almost every dynastic political candidate lost. Through demonetization, there are now twice as many taxpayers. 1 trillion rupees that was previously lost to middlemen, being stolen by middlemen, is now reaching the people it's intended to reach, the very poorest Bharatiyas who are trying to break out of poverty. Through demonetization, 2,100 companies have paid back 1 trillion rupees in unpaid loans that were just left unpaid for generations. This has all been given back to the people. So I've told you how I've seen these two prongs of Prime Minister Modi's approach to cultivate Bharatiya civilization, one being his personal conduct, the second being his political conduct. The third prong of his approach I see being how he is creating the space, the conditions, and the opportunities for Bharatiyas to rediscover their civilization. And again, he's doing that in two ways, indirectly and directly. He's indirectly doing this through his socio-economic reforms. Ultimately, until it is very difficult for an individual to experience inner transformation unless their fundamental human needs are being met, needs such as clean water, food, shelter, safety, and dignity. But there are some direct ways in which he is cultivating the civilization, and I'll give you some examples. Let's take the 2019 Kumbh Mela, the largest peaceful gathering of humanity on the earth. Despite persistent threats from ISIS to poison the waters, poison the food, attack the pilgrims, derail the trains, the event went off as a huge success, allowing 240 visitors to experience and absorb the very special and sacred event, all for the price of 177 rupees per person. The event was even more special this year, now that Ma Ganga, the holiest of rivers, is 30% cleaner, now that 5,000 Ganga villages and 90% of Ganga towns are open defecation free. In fact, Priyanka Gandhi made a big show of just exactly how clean it is when during the elections she bent down and took a sip. Another way in which Prime Minister Modi is directly cultivating Bharatiya civilization is his determination to return all of the priceless treasures and artifacts that have been looted from Bharat for centuries. Treasures and artifacts that derive their power from being on Bharatiya soil, that Bharatiya children deserve to be able to see, to study, to revere, and to feel proud of, Bharatiya children today and in future generations. Back in 2003, when Modi ji was Chief Minister of Gujarat, he oversaw the safe return of the ashes of Shyamji Krishnavarma, an Indian freedom fighter from Switzerland. Since coming to power in 2014, he has driven the safe return of 31 murtis stolen from mandirs. And there are strong plans underway to return another 200 with the help of India, the Pride of India project, in the very near future. This compares to only 9 murtis returned in the 60 years previous. Prime Minister Modi is also increasing the accessibility of Bharat's heritage for its people. He championed the recent implementation of the Sri Ramaya Express, a 16-day not-for-profit train journey taking visitors to all the most sacred locations from the Ramayana across Bharat and Sri Lanka. He is also championing the building of an interactive web portal called Daroha Darshan, allowing anyone, anywhere, to virtually visit and learn about all of the most sacred, most historical, and most culturally significant museums and historical sites around Bharat, from wherever they are. He is also championing the advancement and promotion of Bharat's ancient knowledge bases, such as Ayurveda and true yoga, which is oneness of mind, body, and the ultimate. He set up the Ministry of Ayush, dedicated to that purpose, and by funding most cutting-edge and rigorous research in these fields, we see some amazing findings being published already. I hope I helped you see just in how many ways Prime Minister Modi is cultivating the civilizational ethos. He is doing this through his personal conduct, just being him, through his political conduct, through his socio-economic reforms, and in some direct ways. But as I mentioned earlier, for large and long-lasting change in Bharat to happen, it has to happen as a movement of the people. That is why I really hope that Bharatiyas take Modi ji's lead and make the most of the opportunities that he is laying before them to not only rediscover their civilization, but actually to rediscover themselves. Bharatiya civilization deserves a resurgence, and to be frank, the world really needs one. It is in the hands of Bharatiyas to make it happen. As I sang in my video on the 23rd of May, Mitfa, sun mitfa, tujhko kya ta hai re, ye dati, apni hai, apna amba hai re. बहुत धन्यवाद. Jai Shri Ram, Sat Shri Akal.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Citti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.